The Green Phoenix is back, sort of. So I know it's been quite a while since we actually worked on this thing, but the car doesn't actually belong to me personally. It belongs to the person behind the camera there. And the next step of the project was supposed to be focusing on her doing the interior, but due to other commitments with her job and other stuff outside of the YouTube channel, she just hasn't been able to actually work on the interior. And now we're getting to that point where she can start having some time to play with it. So we're picking back up on this thing, and hopefully we'll start getting some videos out on this, but they won't be coming super quickly, not like every week. So this thing has been stored in a garage that unfortunately is quite dusty, and as you can see from the vinyl and stuff here, it got pretty dirty during that time. And once we get it cleaned up here, we do now have a hard top to put on it to keep it clean. But moving forward, what she's going to end up doing is taking the seats out, and at some point here really soon, she's going to actually finish them, because these seats are not done yet. The covers are just on it. None of this, all this wrinkling is going to be taken out of it. It's going to be properly fitted when it's done. And we got to finish engineering the headrest. We got something special going on for that. But what she's going to do now is get in here and start putting all the sound deadening in here to get it ready to start doing the interior. And she's going to actually start on the door panels. She has the design of the door panels mostly worked out, and that's where she's going to start, and then build the rest of the interior around those. And of course, for those of you who have been following this car from last year, you'll remember that the engine did have a bit of a problem in that it's got a wiped cam. But when we took it to a couple car shows, the thing was also dropping oil pressure really bad when it gets hot. It would start out right normal where we wanted it, right, like 70 pounds when you first start it, and sit at about 40 or 50. Once it gets hot, it would drop as low as 5 pounds at idle. And it's not worth just stuffing an oil pump in it to see if that fixes it, because we still got a wiped cam and it still doesn't run that great. So it's going to get an engine rebuild. And we're on loaner carbs now, so I still got to build a set of carbs for it. So once we realized this thing had the oil pressure problems as well as the camshaft issue, we decided that we really didn't want to use the car, because we want to salvage this motor. We don't want to blow it up. And the reason why we haven't started on any of the mechanical stuff on this is actually twofold. One is we wanted to get the engine together on this first and get my autocrosser up and running before we start doing any of the mechanic work on the next stage of Green Phoenix here. The other thing is she really doesn't want to stick with the 4-speed. She wants to do a 5-speed conversion. The preferred transmission is the 280Z transmission, and we've been struggling to find one anywhere remotely close to where we live that even remotely fits within the budget. So she's been exploring other options, and that hasn't been settled yet. So we're not going to pull the engine and start working on that if we don't know what we're going to do for a transmission. So one of the other reasons why the car has kind of been sitting and we haven't done anything with it is, as part of that engine build, we wanted to get a cylinder head from a 72 to 74B to put on the engine when we build it. And we ended up finding this engine, which is from a 72B, but we've been a couple of months trying to get coordinated with the club member and customer of mine that had this, because he lives over 100 miles away from here, and we were trying to coordinate a good time where we would at least be in the general area, say halfway to his place, and incorporate that into that trip. And we finally got that taken care of, and we got the motor here. So we're going to take this apart, pull the head off, and make sure the head's good, because this motor has been sitting in his shed since the mid-80s, and it's got no oil in it. Hasn't since then, so the bottom end's going to be pretty bad shape on this thing. But we want to make sure this head's good. The idea was to put this head onto that engine. But now that plan has changed a little bit because of how this came together. Since the combustion chambers ended up way larger than I ever anticipated on this one, and it's already been skimmed enough that I don't want to keep cutting on the head, what we're going to do, if that head is good, we're actually going to prep that head, get it to where I wanted the head for this one to be at, the size combustion chamber I wanted, and I'm actually poured it slightly differently with emphasis on some swirl and some other stuff that I've learned since I first ported that one. And then that head will go on this car, and then this head will end up on the Green Phoenix, making that a little bit more powerful of an engine than what we was originally intending. Now, the last time you guys seen this car, we just had my autocross wheels and tires on it in order to be able to drive it to shows. And that's when we found out that the oil pressure was dropping off so much, so it hasn't really been used. And we hadn't shown you, I don't think, what wheels we were going to end up on the car for good, and here they are. The Datsun 280Z wheels. I don't remember what they call this pattern. There were several different patterns. But after driving it with my autocross tires, she opted for Falken Azenas. And these are 195, 60, 14. So she ended up opting to go ahead and have these powder coated in a silver because the finish on all the wheels we were finding, we couldn't find anything with great finish on it. Everything had compromised clear coat and discolored aluminum, but she got a good deal on these things. And she really wanted to have this front face machined, but after the collar was put on, but they were talking way too much money to do that to fit within her budget, so she opted to just leave it silver, and actually she's pretty happy with it now. Things we need to figure out now is the center caps. The chrome on the center caps isn't the greatest. They won't clean up super well. Some of them have some peeling on them, but we obviously don't want the Z on here. Now we think we have figured out what we're going to do with this, and you'll be seeing that coming up in a future video. So spoiler alert! So yes, we have decided we're putting a LE front spoiler on the front of this thing. I don't think we have said that in a past video, but I'm not going to go back and watch all the videos to find out right now. So we're going to put a spoiler on here. She likes the looks of that on the car. And we might even try to install that this weekend while we have it in the shop.